The Blackpool Combat Club come out along with Eddie Kingston, Santana, and Ortiz, followed by the Jericho Appreciation Society. And as Judas is playing, Ange Parker shuts that shit down. No Judas, no pyro, no sing-along. I really enjoy these two, 2.0.
I do too. They're
like
great.
The goofy sidekicks. The crowd boos this. Jericho speaks and just pretty much goes one by one here. He mentions Eddie Kingston, who is, as Jericho starts speaking, Kingston is just on his phone, like not even paying attention to the guy speaking, refers to them all as heathens and believes that Regal orchestrated that attack last week, and then tells Regal that he thought he'd be dead by now. And Regal seemed genuinely amused by this line, and he calls Regal wasted potential. You should have been a world-class champion. Instead, you were a world-class addict, fired by every company you've worked for and weaseling your way into AEW off the coattails of your proteges. Santana and Ortiz got everything that they have because of me. He brings up Eddie Kingston's girl, who could still give him a call. Then moves on to Bryan Danielson, who might be the best wrestler in the world. And I was curious. I'm like, what direction do you go with like a Bryan Danielson? Like what's like the albatross on this guy? He's a squeaky clean nerd who's never taken a drink or a drug in his life. Well, stick with this group long enough, Bryan, and Regal's going to be sticking disco biscuits and whiskey down your throat until you need to go to the program with Moxley. You guys are a royal flush of losers. And he tells Regal to just go home or else I'm going to throw a fireball at you or maybe piss in your tea again. Which, I mean, this crowd reacted to. I could have gone without the WWF reference, but it was a line that everyone, I guess, associates these two with. It's not a forgotten angle.
I mean, it's such a classic, silly thing from 20 years ago that I think we all, like, people were joking online, Regal can finally get his revenge for Jericho pissing in his tea. The fact they brought
apparently
it up,
he has been all these years, and we haven't been aware of
yeah,
until he was going to reveal this in a very bizarre response. Listen, this is what... let's go first through Regal's response, and then we can talk about the segment as a whole. So Regal has the rebuttal. And I mean, this guy has just shot some strays at these guys. And Regal says that he met Jericho in 1997, stating that his voice was vile. And whenever I have been booked on a show with you, when you have gone to wrestle, I would go to your locker room, I would open your bag, I would take out your toiletries, and I would take your toothbrush and shove it up my ass. And I was left so perplexed. Number one, the level, like, these were some significant, like, lines that Regal threw, that Jericho threw at them. And to come back with this and thinking, like, you would do this for years on end? Like, that is, what?
Well, this
is really...
I hope Jericho uses soft toothbrushes because those things are, they can be very abrasive. So who really got the worst end?
Like, at what point does the joke kind of run its course if you're Regal? Like, this was 25 years you've been doing this?
I mean,
was he building, when you're booked with him?
He was building this whole thing up for this reveal, I guess, 25 years later. Yeah, if no one's laughing at your joke, I guess other people in the locker room are laughing. Maybe it was worth it for that reason. But the point is, it's a little ironic how the sports entertainer ended up delivering the more scathing, realistic type of trash talk, and the wrestler supposedly gave you the much more sports entertainment angle and the visual coming out of this. It was not what we expected coming out of William Regal, for one of his big promo segments, and I would say maybe it kind of left you disappointed.
Yeah, number one, I think it was a little tough for the crowd to even hear him. Like, he is a lower, quieter speaker, I find. And number two, I just didn't think it was all that amusing either. I'm fine with like a line that has like a punchline to it. I just didn't think it was.
It's just not believable.
We're talking about tooth.
Oh, it is believable.
Up a guy's ass. So yeah, it was not believable, but it's also like it wasn't all that clever. I just like. This is the comeback after the guy like wished you dead and that you're an addict. I just thought it was a very flat response to a pretty scathing promo from Jericho. Garcia interrupts, calling that disgusting, and Regal says, "Well, I did that to you last week." Jericho knows that you guys just want to fight and proposes Stadium Stampede, but before he can get the term out of his mouth, Moxley stops him. I ain't doing that shit. And it was so funny to listen to this crowd because they were getting excited about Stadium Stampede. But when it was Moxley to shut it down, they were like, okay, cool. If John doesn't want it, fuck this match. We don't need it either. This circus bullshit.
He's like the cool older brother who like tells you what bands to like. Oh, I love, I don't know, Coldplay.
Oh my God. You're not familiar with Circumference of the Square? They're the coolest, man. Never heard of them.
Yeah.
So he says he's not being sucked into this sports entertainment vortex. He suggests a violent fight in front of an arena of screaming fans. Anything goes until all of you are bleeding like stuck pigs. We can call it anarchy in the arena, pro wrestling versus sports entertainment, the sport we love against some stupid bullshit. And then Jericho tries to stir the pot here, noting how we're all on the same page. But you guys, Santana, Moxley, weren't you two stabbing each other in the eye in an eye versus eye match that was actually good?
Ooh, ouch,
yes.
burn.
I was waiting for Samoa Joe to come out and say how traumatizing that was to call.
Was it, that's right.
The eyeball is out.
Yeah. It was out of whose eye?
Ray lost his eye.
Ray, okay, and who
he's
else
never
was in
been
that?
the same.
Was it Aleister Black?
Seth.
Oh, it was Seth. Okay,
remember
okay.
after he vomited?
I gave myself a lobotomy after that. Oh my goodness. Well, I was going to say Aleister Black is still feeling the repercussions of that whole storyline.
So Danielson, he says, once called Eddie Kingston lazy. And Kingston, you called Danielson a judgmental prick. And Kingston says, what? You are. And Kingston says, listen, shut up. I don't care about buys. I don't care about ratings. Let's get in the ring and fight right now, bitch. And the Jericho Appreciation Society leave, and Kingston wants to go after them. Danielson prevents him from leaving the ring, and they get into a shoving match, and there's a pull apart. So the idea is that the Blackpool Combat Club, Kingston, Santana, and Ortiz can they coexist against the sports entertainers in this anything goes anarchy in the arena?
Terrible name. Like, I think it's awful. Just drop the alliteration at this point. Stadium Stampede works. I don't think this does. But isn't it kind of funny, that, again, the wrestlers supposedly felt way more sports entertainment like coming out of this between, Regal's response to these members of the group not necessarily getting along than the sports entertainment group themselves. I thought Jericho's lines were entertaining. They were very well delivered. It makes you wonder if that might have been the segment that might have gone long because it felt like it took the most time in the segment.
I feel it felt very abrupt how like Regal was going on this story, and Jericho pretty much ends it by saying, okay, we know you guys just want to have a fight. Like it felt like a very abrupt shift to just get things back on track.
Certainly the overall segment felt long. I feel like Regal might have had more to say than the whole toothbrush thing.
Oh, Jesus. If that was, I would hope he had more to say than that, but yeah, I just needed a stronger response, and maybe it honestly should have been Eddie Kingston doing the response.
Yeah, but the rivalry is between the history is between Regal and Jericho, and that's kind of what you're pushing as. But you have a lot of people
started as this guy got his face burned off. Like he's the focal point of this whole thing,
and he's fully healed by now. If you notice,
he did have the mark on him. He did have a mark.
Did he have a mark? Really?
Yeah, he did. Still
I didn't notice anything.
Well, it wasn't as pronounced, but he did have some like a mark over his eye.
Well, good to see he's got good healing powers. But ultimately, the segment ended, I would say, pretty a bit of a mess. Didn't necessarily, I think, peak. With the whole. Like,
I thought it started very strong with Jericho's setup. I think the Regal thing really threw things off.
And like Bryan suddenly stopping Kingston from going after Jericho doesn't make a whole lot of sense. At least on the surface,
he does care about buys. Maybe he's got like points on the pay-per-views. Like we're not giving this away now.
He clearly follows the ratings every single week. Yeah. So I mean, I felt that was really forced, the forcing of the tension between the group members. So not that home run of a segment considering all the participants.